about you, but this is one of these situations that keeps me awake at night, or rather, when I am not at home. Some say that being flooded is worse than fire. It can do tremendous damage, not only to the things you have, but also to the house structure. It can damage floors, it can damage ceilings, wooden structures, it will cause mold. But not anymore. Let's see how Home Assistant can help us reducing or even eliminating this situation. Until today on my channel, we have automated a number of things around the house. We did the heating, we did the sunshades, the lights obviously. We also did the irrigation with the display, if you remember this one. We did the internet traffic and the firewall. We also look at the security. So if you've missed some of the videos, here is the link to the playlist. But the whole time I had on my to-do list getting the water main valve under control. I like to start from simple things and build up. So the first thing I did was I bought a couple of those leak sensors. I put one under the washing machine and one under the dishwasher, and I added them into my Zigbee network and made an automation to send me a notification if they detect some leak. It was straightforward. It was a good start, but it doesn't solve two issues. First, what if the water leaks somewhere else? And mainly, the second, what if I'm not at home and I cannot shut off the water manually? This first issue is still on my list, and I will get back to that later in this video. But let's address the second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add an actuator to the water main valve into the house and automate it through Home Assistant. This is the situation before the change. The water comes to my garage. There is the official valve that is before the water meter. I cannot touch that. That would be illegal. Then after that, I have some optional filtration device and then the main valve we are going to be dealing with. Ignore the nonsense on the left. I'm not even sure what it does. So I thought I'm gonna take it easy. I bought this Z-Wave actuator that mounts on top of the valve and simply manipulates the lever. So when it finally arrived, I was so excited. I went to testing it right away, but it didn't work. I was so disappointed, so I even forgot to put it on the video and I returned that. But in a nutshell, there were three issues with that. First, the actuator I bought needs to be secured to the tube after the valve. From the documentation, it looked like it would be able to mount to the valve fitting, but when I got it, there was no such option. And securing it to the tube didn't work for two reasons. First, I didn't like fitting that to the plastic tube. And second, there was not enough space for that anyhow. It simply didn't fit. So what I did was I 3D printed fitting that would mount to that valve fitting. After the second attempt, it fitted perfectly and it sat right on top of the lever. So that was one issue solved. I thought I'd declare the victory, but it was too early for that. I tried to close the valve, but it didn't work completely. It did actually shut off the water, but at the end position, the actuator didn't stop and the motor kept trying to move the lever further and further. I've been fiddling with the mechanical screws holding the lever, but I didn't succeed. So at the end, I decided that the valve is probably too old and I have to replace it. But I decided not to do that because there were already too many compromises. The 3D printed fitting that was not sure how long it would last. Adding the actuator to the valve that was not designed to do that. And I didn't like that the device didn't have a state that would tell me whether this is open or shut. And since I was going to replace the valve anyway, I decided that I'm gonna get a proper one with the actuator built in. They come in two parts. The actual valve with a screw for the electrical actuator, and that you can get in different sizes. In my case, I got 1 inch, as this is the size of my water mains. And then the actuator. Here there are 3 types. I got the one with 3 wires. The middle one is neutral, and then there is one to open the valve and second to close it. Or you can get one with only a pair of wires that is either normally closed and will open when you connect it to the electricity, or normally open, it will close on signal. The reason I bought the one I got is that I wanted the valve to stay in the last position in case there is no power. If I got the normally closed, it would shut down in case of power outage, and I didn't want that. First, for safety reason, but also for comfort. It's already bad enough if there is a power cut, and there is no reason making it even worse by inducing a water outage at the same time. But I didn't want the normally open either, since if I did have a leakage and the mains would shut, it would open again if there is power outage, which could happen if the water gets somewhere and causes short circuit. So that is that. I bought another one for the water tap outside the house that I use for the irrigation. And I had some reason for that. First, I needed to protect the tap against the freeze in the winter. And the current valve is crappy, it's leaking, but it's also behind the kitchen, so I can't get to it to open and close it. And so for this one, first of all, it's smaller because the tube is small, but also got the normally closed one, since I know when the irrigation is running and I will open the valve for that, otherwise I will keep that shut. Okay, back to our main valve. This is how it looks like. Now let's see how to control the beast. Since I need to control 2 circuits, one to close and one to open, I bought a Shelly 2.5 that has 2 relays, and it can be configured to interlock them to make sure they are not both connected at the same time. There is a Shelly integration for Home Assistant, but I knew that I'm going to load ESP Home to it, since I use that for all my DIY devices, including Sonoffs and Shellys. It might not be for everyone. Sometimes I get this complaint in the comments that I always go to programming right away and I make this useless for many people. But it does give me more flexibility to do what I want, and I know how to do it. So for me, it's easy. In fact, I often find it easier than fiddling with the built-in solutions that to do what I want and dealing with the compromises. And I actually like that I have consistent solution for everything I do, and I don't have to deal with 6 different platforms. But this is optional. So if you don't like it, you can just use the Shelly out-of-the-box integration. So with this out of the way, let me walk you through what I have. So we are back in the Home Assistant, and let's go straight to the ESP Home dashboard. So here are my scripts, and here in the very bottom there is the one for the water mains. So let me walk you through. So first there are some substitutions. There's the device name that I'm actually using in here in the main ESP Home header. What I do is there's this nice page, ESP Home devices, which is a page for most common devices, in this case Shelly 2.5. And in here, first of all, you have the GPIO pinout, so you know which relay or switch is connected to which GPIO. But what is nice about that, there are some examples of configurations, and there's really few of those. And I really use them as a starting point for my script. So this is where I copied the header section from. So that's that. Then there is the common API over-the-air update and Wi-Fi. I have that common for all the scripts. I'm not going to go into detail. And then I have the configuration for my actual application. So first, GPIO 0. So if I look at that, GPIO 0 is the LED light. And I'm using it for signaling whether the switch is open or closed. So we will come back to that later. Then I have the binary sensor and I have that on GPIO 13. So let me refer back to GPIO 13. This is the switch input 1. If I look at the Shelly, so this is this one. So if I toggle this switch 1, so I connect phase on it or disconnect phase on it, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna toggle the Shelly switch. So this really gives me an option to have a physical switch next to the water mains to control it locally, so I can open it and close it by a physical switch. And then the core of the configuration, the two relays for the two wires. So one is relay 1, which is connected to GPIO 4. And in here I'm saying I'd like to interlock it with the relay 2. So what I'm saying is I would like ESP Home to make sure that those two are never connected at the same time. And then the same thing with the relay 2. So these are really the relays that send the signal to this output 1 and output 2 when I connect them. And then I created a template switch that is actually automating those two relays. So I could have controlled those two relays directly from Home Assistant, but I decided to simplify that. So I have only a single switch, and when I turn this switch on, it will turn the relay 1 on. And what it does is it'll then wait 20 seconds and then it'll turn it off. And the same thing is if I turn this template off, I will then turn on the relay 2 for 20 seconds and then I'm gonna turn it off. And before I do that, I also disconnect the other relay, even though I probably don't have to do that because the interlock will take care of that for me. And I'm also turning on and turning off the LED light, so I have some indication whether the valve is open or closed. So this is what I use right now. I decided that I will not keep the on or off wire connected all the time. I only turn it on for 20 seconds, and the relay should take about 12-13 seconds to close or open the valve. So to be sure, I'm activating it for 20 seconds. And after that, I'm actually disconnecting the voltage from the actuator, so it's not under current all the time. I decided I'm gonna do it this way. Not sure if it's necessary. What I could have done instead is I could have just removed this part. I can just leave the relay 1 or relay 2 on all the time. And in this case, I could then have this lambda that would actually tell me what is the state based on the state of the relay. So if relay 1 was on, I would know that the valve is on, and if the relay 1 was off, I knew that the valve is closed. But because I'm turning off the relay after 20 seconds, I can't do that because it would always tell me that this switch is off. So instead I'm relying on the last state, so when I turn it on, it'll be on until I turn it off. And for that reason in here I'm using the restore from flash option. And if you want to use that on your ESP Home, make sure you check the documentation, because this shouldn't be used for states that are changing too often. There is a physical limit how many writes you can make into this flash memory. But since I don't expect this valve to be open and closed that often, I'm okay using that. So even after this device loses power, when it comes back, it should remember what was the last state. So that's that, and let me show you how that works. I put the picture entity card on my dashboard, so I can just click on it and turn off the valve. You heard a click. In fact, it was 2 clicks, one for the Shelly and the second for the actuator. They happened roughly about the same time. So now the valve is closing, and about a second you will hear another click now for the actuator, and the second one for the Shelly. So now the valve is closed. Let me just click on it again. And now again, you have heard those 2 clicks that were very close, one to the other, and now the valve is opening again. And in a second you will again hear 2 clicks, first for the actuator and second for the Shelly to disconnect the voltage from the wire because it's not needed there anymore. So we have the valve installed and it's working. We have it connected to Home Assistant so we can control it remotely. Now the final piece. That was the reason why we did all of that. And this is to automate it, to automatically shut off when the leak is detected. It is rather easy now. Follow me. So I'd like to trigger the automation when the water leak is detected. So I need to create a new automation for the water leak detection device. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open the quick bar by pressing the E button, and then I'm going to search for the water leak detection entity. So this is the binary sensor that detects water leak for the dishwasher. So I'm going to go there. From here I'm going to go to the configuration, and in related I'm going to just go to the device. So this was one way of doing that. The other way obviously would be here through the configuration. And in here I have all the entities for that device, but I also have automations. And here I already have the automation I'm going to show you in a second, but first let me show you how I create it. So I just hit the plus icon in here, and then I'd like to do something when the water leak sensor becomes moist. So this is what I clicked on, and this is how we are going to configure our automation. I already did that, so let me show that to you. So this is the automation when the water leak is detected for this device, and then what are the actions. And it's rather simple. We just call the service, switch, turn off, and in here, let me just delete it and do it again for you. I'm gonna just pick the entity from the Shelly we have configured previously. So that's pretty much it, but I also want to send me a notification, and I'd like to trigger a couple of notifications. First, I'd like to get a notification on my phone. So here I'm sending notification to my wife's phone saying that there's a water on the dishwasher. And I also have a couple of Google Assistants in my bedroom and living room and in my study. So I'm just sending a notification to those as well in case someone is in the water, so we know right away that there is a water leak detected. And I'm also creating a persistent notification, so when I log into Home Assistant, so I know that there was a water leak. So there is a triple notification. It's probably overkill, but here we go. And that's all there is. So in a nutshell, let me recap. It's triggered by the Aquara device that detects the water leak under the dishwasher. It's triggered when the sensor became moist. There's no conditions, and it just calls the service, switch, turn off. So it's turning off the water. And I'm not turning it on again automatically when it becomes dry. That will mean that if the water dries up and no one actually fixes the leak, it will turn it again, and I don't want that. I want to just make sure that I fix the leak and then I turn the water on manually. So let's see the automation in action. I'm gonna turn on water in the garage, and I'm gonna take this leak detector from Aquara, put it on a plate and immerse it in the water. And what you saw is on the dashboard, you could see that the valve is now closed. There's the icon indicating it's inactive. And you have heard Google Assistant saying the notification. You also see the water current stopping. So the water stops running. It's effectively shut off, but it takes some time because we are on the ground floor, and there is a water all the way through the first floor. So it takes a little bit of time for the water to completely turn off. So I could have probably saved you this waiting, but here we go. The water is stopped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the water leak detector because I don't need that anymore. I'm going to dry it just to make sure it doesn't trigger another alarm. And I'm going to go on my dashboard and I'm going to turn the valve on again. As you will see, the water will start running again. And here we go. Now, they say that this is a good practice to close and open this valve 2 times per year to make sure it works. I could just remember that and do that manually, but why if we can automate that? So here is what we do. In the automations, I created an automation for the water main to test the water main every 6 months. So this automation will be triggered every day at 5 a.m. but it will only run if this condition is met. So it will only run on the 1st of March or 1st of September. So twice a year on the 1st of the month in March and September. And I'm also checking whether the valve is open, because if it's closed, I don't want to automatically open it for the test. I want to just keep it closed in this case. So these are the conditions, and what I'm doing is I'm turning off the switch. So call service, switch off, and this is our entity again. Then I'm waiting 25 seconds. Remember, it completes in 20 seconds. I'm giving it 5 more seconds in here, and then I'm turning it back on. And then I'm creating notification just to notify me that the test has been done. I guess I could add another condition just to check if the washing machine isn't running or something, but I guess this is quite unlikely that it will run in 5 a.m. in the morning, but it'll be an easy thing to do as well. So this is where I got so far. There is one bit still on my list. If you remember in the beginning, I said that one of the remaining risks is that I only have 2 sensors, but what if the water leaks somewhere else? And here is my plan. I'd like to make an automation that would shut off the valve if the water is flowing through it, but nobody is actually using the water. And here is how to do that. First, I could assume that when the alarm is on and nobody is home, that nobody can actually use the tap water, right? So nobody can use the water except 4 things. The washing machine that can be programmed, dishwasher, the same thing, also irrigation, and finally the water heater that sometimes tops up the water in the boiler to maintain the pressure as the water expands and contracts with the temperature. The first 3 are easy. I already have a sensor for when they are running so that I can check on them. And for the last one, I can probably build some tolerance to consider some small amount of water is okay. So all I need is to have some flow meter that would tell me what is the water consumption in real time. And that would actually be quite useful to monitor for other reasons too. And here is where I'm stuck at the moment. There are solutions for the mechanical water meters that detect the movement of the mechanical parts in the display. But I don't have that. The paradox is they have replaced my mechanical water meter with an electronic IoT one with a remote management. So technically it should be actually much easier. But I still haven't found a way to read things. I guess it's a proprietary thing. So if you know how to do that, please let me know. That would be really cool. And until then, I think I'm fine with what I've got. The only thing I'm probably going to do is I have this vacation switch that already does a number of things, like lowers the temperature or controls the lights automatically. So I'll probably add an automation to shut off the valve as well. And I'm really looking forward when this Corona situation is fixed and I will be able to turn this switch on. And that's all for today. If you like this video, smash that like button below, subscribe, and If you didn't see the previous videos, here is the whole playlist. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!